Welcome to our special storytelling program, where we journey beyond the screen to explore the real lives of the stars who have touched our hearts. In 1997, the film Soul Food premiered and immediately created a deep and lasting imprint in the hearts of audiences. With its story about the strength of family bonds, the sanctity of Sunday dinners, and the trials that test our love for one another. The work was not only a commercial and artistic success, but became an unforgettable part of the memories of an entire generation. But behind those classic characters were actors with destinies entirely their own. 27 years have passed, and time has etched very different marks upon their lives. Some continued to shine brilliantly. Some chose a quiet path of peace, and others saw their journeys cut short by tragedy. Let us now look back at the tumultuous, inspiring, and sometimes heartbreaking journeys of the cast that became the soul of Soul Food. Vanessa L. Williams as Terry Joseph. We begin with the eldest sister, the rock of the family, Vanessa L. Williams. In Soul Food, at the age of 34, she portrayed Terry Joseph. The sharp, successful yet deeply wounded older sister Terry was the glue that tried to hold the family finances together, often sacrificing her own emotional needs. Vanessa's performance showcased a profound acting talent, layering strength with a hidden vulnerability that helped shape the emotional core of the film. But Vanessa's real life was even more turbulent than Terry's. Long before she sat at the Joseph family dinner table, she had already weathered a storm that would have broken many. At age 21 in 1984, she made history as the first Black Miss America. However, the triumph was short-lived. She became the first to lose her crown due to a scandal involving nude photos secretly taken years earlier. This event did not just ruin her reputation, it destroyed her early relationships and sent her into a spiral of mental anguish, a public shaming that forced her to rebuild her life from the ashes. Her personal life continued to be a series of trials. 3 marriages and 2 divorces combined with the immense pressure of rebuilding her career after a series of media scandals left Vanessa constantly stressed. She worked tirelessly to stabilize her career with roles in films like Hoodlum and Shall We Dance, proving her versatility. But these public wounds were just the tip of the iceberg. Privately, Vanessa carried the scars of being sexually abused at age 10, the trauma of an abortion in high school, and the daily battle with type 1 diabetes since childhood. Behind the glamorous scenes of Ugly Betty, Desperate Housewives, and Candyman, there is a woman trying to be strong, refusing to let herself be broken by the world. In 2025, Vanessa Williams is 62 years old. She continues to work prolifically in film, television, and theater, refusing to slow down. Beyond the spotlight, she is devoting more and more of her time to charitable programs, specifically supporting child victims of abuse, turning her past pain into protection for others. Her estimated net worth of approximately $40 million marks a milestone in a lifelong journey of resilience and overcoming adversity. Irma P. Hall as Mother Joe, Big Mama. Next, we turn to the heart and soul of the film, Irma P. Hall. At the age of 61, she played the role of Mother Joe, affectionately known as Big Mama. She was the main character in spirit, the spiritual support for all the other characters, and the woman whose hands prepared the meals that bound the family together. It was her image as the model Black grandmother, wise, loving, and firm, that made her an unforgettable figure in audiences' memories. However, behind the beloved Big Mama persona was a life of quiet hardship. Her career began much later than most. Before Irma Hall began her film journey, she was simply a quiet foreign language teacher living in Dallas, Texas, too busy with the heavy responsibilities of family to think about her own artistic dreams. Entering the film industry at age 37 meant constant setbacks. She often landed supporting roles, and despite success in family films and documentaries, the instability of her acting career, the pressures of age, and a sense of being lost in the vast machinery of Hollywood placed a long-term psychological burden on her. This burden seemed to reach a terrifying climax in 2004. In a life-or-death situation during a blizzard in Chicago, Irma was tragically involved in a severe car accident. Her car lost control and collided head-on with a vehicle in the opposing lane. The crash caused broken bones, a ruptured aorta, broken arm, and a broken ankle. She underwent emergency heart surgery, a procedure that barely allowed her to survive. The long-term injuries from this accident limited her mobility significantly, and her career was disrupted just as she was receiving high acclaim. Irma Hall continued to work when she could, but her health deteriorated and she experienced constant pain for the remainder of her days. The matriarch of soul food eventually had to say goodbye. Irma P. Hall passed away on September 12, 2024 at the age of 88 after years of quietly battling the chronic health effects of that tragic accident. Her estate estimated at approximately $3 million. Dollars is quite modest by Hollywood standards, but the spiritual value and the warmth she left for future generations are immeasurable. Vivica, a fox, as Maxine Joseph. Vivica, a fox, burst onto the screen as Maxine Joseph. At 33, she played the middle sister. Outspoken, temperamental, but fiercely loving Maxine was the sister who would fight for you. And with you, the vibrant, energetic soul of the film who deeply loved her family. The role transformed Vivica into a household name, showcasing her dynamic range. However, behind this, on-screen, strength and sass was a private life filled with deep regret and sadness. Vivica has often been quoted saying, "Not having children is my biggest regret," a sentiment that plunged her into years of emotional turmoil. Her quest for love was equally fraught with difficulty. Her marriage to singer Christopher Harvest ended after 4 years. Her high-profile relationship with rapper 50 Cent fell apart amidst intense media scrutiny that played out in the public eye. Later, her 10-month engagement to Omar Slim White ended, abruptly leaving her emotionally drained. These emotional wounds inevitably affected her career. Despite roles in massive blockbusters like Independence Day and Kill Bill, she struggled to navigate the cutthroat world of Hollywood as she aged. As her career began to decline from its peak, Vivica faced another unexpected shock. Just before the 2020 Emmy Awards, a false positive COVID-19 test result forced her to withdraw from hosting duties in panic and shame, though the result later turned out to be incorrect. It was a humiliating moment, in a vulnerable time. In the years that followed, she found herself landing roles in cable television, low-budget films, and independent projects. Yet Vivica kept pushing forward despite being scarred by heartache and a sense of abandonment by the mainstream Hollywood machine. By 2025, 61-year-old Vivica, a fox, continues to produce films, and has most recently tried her hand at directing. She remains single and says she's learned to accept the impossible, especially the chapter of motherhood. Her estimated net worth of around $6 million reflects a career full of ups and downs, but it also stands as a testament to the strength of a woman who never gives up, no matter how many times love or life knocks her down. Mekhi Phifer as Lem. Mekhi Phifer brought an intense, raw energy to the role of Lem. In 1997, at the age of 22, he played Birds, husband and impulsive but sincere young man, trying to find his way after a troubled past. He created one of the film's most beloved characters Lem represents. Men struggling to live honorably amid poverty and family pressures, and Mekhi breathed life into the role with undeniable charisma. In real life, however, Mekhi Phifer soon fell into a spiral of trauma from which no character could save him. His first marriage to actress Melinda Williams ended in 2003, occurring when Mekhi was at the peak of his career and arguably had no time to nurture a family. He attempted to build a new life with Oni Saratha, who bore him a son, but emotional instability and professional pressures led to the breakup of that union as well, too. Consecutive relationship failures exhausted him, burdening him with the responsibility of supporting families while maintaining a high-profile career. The turning point came in 2011 when Mekhi declared bankruptcy. He had accumulated enormous debts, taxes, credit cards, and especially gambling debts. from 2011, being one of the brightest young stars of the 1990s who shone in the film 8 Mile and was beloved on ER as Dr. Greg Pratt, he fell into deep financial and emotional trouble. Constantly working just to pay off debts became an obsession that for years sank him into anxiety. By 2025, Makey Pfeiffer, now 50 years old, has gradually rebuilt both his career and his sanity after finding stability in his third marriage to Reshalit Barnes. He continued acting, appearing in projects like 2024's Long Gone Heroes, and has chosen a quieter, less chaotic life. His net worth is approximately $2 million, which is the culmination of a long journey of overcoming his own mistakes and rebuilding from zero. Gina Rivera. As Faith, Gina Rivera brought a quiet grace to the role of Faith. At the age of 31, she played the cousin who enters the family dynamic with a fresh perspective. She was a quiet but warm character who remained somewhat aloof from the intense family turmoil, observing and preserving the film's subtle nuances. Faith isn't the central character in this story, but she is the one who breathes a different life into it. Gina Rivera's life after the film hasn't become as turbulent or public as many of her co-stars. She lives so privately that the media has struggled to track any significant changes in her personal life. This complete suppression of her public image perhaps prevented her career from exploding into superstardom, but it preserved her peace. Earlier in her career, the film Showgirls garnered her enormous attention, but the negative reactions to that movie made Gina more cautious about fame than anyone else. This caution sometimes led to Gina being jokingly called a missing person in Hollywood circles. After Soul Food, her career took a significant upturn when she played Detective Irene Daniels on the hit series The Closer from 2005 to 2009. This role proved that silence and focus were her survival strategies in a chaotic world. However, after leaving these Closer, Gina reverted to her old habits, living quietly and working as if acting were a duty, not a race for celebrity. By 2025, Gina Rivera is 59 years old and rarely appears in public. She participates in a few small projects and devotes most of her time to her private life, which she keeps strictly guarded. Her estimated net worth of around $1 million may seem modest for a career spanning 3 decades, but it aptly reflects the life of a woman who chose tranquility and privacy over ostentation. Carl Wright as Pastor Williams. Carl Wright brought joy to the screen as Pastor Williams. In the 1997 film, he was 65 years old when he played the witty and humorous pastor who always cleared his plate at the Sunday dinners. Despite being a supporting character, he brought plenty of laughs to the film, lightening the heavy emotional load of the family drama. His role became an unforgettable moment as fans recalled family scenes in the film, but Carl Wright's real life wasn't as peaceful as the laughs he brought on screen. Before his film career, he was a tap-dancing legend in Chicago, traveling the world in his tap shoes. However, the interest in his dance career peaked too early and quickly faded with age, forcing him to turn to acting in his later years to survive. A late start to his acting career kept him almost always on the fringes of the industry. He took minor comedic roles in films like Big Mama's House and Barbershop just to make ends meet. Just as his acting career was beginning to stabilize and he was finding a new audience, illness struck. Carl Wright was battling terminal cancer, endured daily pain that made his work more difficult than ever. Yet he maintained his humor. He continued acting until his body gave out, clinging to his profession as if it were his last breath. Sadly, the laughter stopped. Carl Wright passed away at his home in Chicago on May 19, 2007 at the age of 75 after a long and peaceful battle with cancer. His net worth at the end of his life was just $300, a heartbreakingly small sum, but one that clearly reflects an artist who devoted his entire life to the stage and brought the sincerest laughter to audiences regardless of the financial reward. Brandon Hammond as Ahmad. We look at the narrator of the story. Brandon Hammond. Born on February 6, 1984. He was only 13 years old when he played Ahmad in Soul Food. He became the film's emotionally central narrator, soothing family conflicts with his innocence and a heart far beyond his years. His performance not only moved audiences to tears, but also cemented Brandon as one of Hollywood's brightest child stars of the late 1990s. But beneath the glamour, Brandon's life was full of hidden wounds. He entered the entertainment industry too early with his mother as his manager, leaving his childhood filled with the constant pressure to shine. As he grew older, his youthful appearance deprived him of roles appropriate for his age, a common curse for child stars. The disappointment lasted for years. His interrupted career became even more devastating when, as a young man, Brandon was diagnosed with Castleman's disease, a rare and debilitating illness that weakens the body, lowers the immune system, and requires long-term treatment. This illness, coupled with his departure from Hollywood because he was no longer suited to the roles he played as a child, caused Brandon to quietly fade from the screen. Until 2025, 41-year-old Brandon Hammond lived a quiet life focusing solely on directing and writing short films. Childhood trauma and his health battles became the driving force behind his ability to tell more authentic and emotionally moving stories. He won the Best Screenplay Award in the John Singleton short film competition and continues to develop his own projects. His estimated net worth of around $500,000 is quite modest, but it is enough to support his chosen creative life, proving that while he may have left the screen, his storytelling spirit remains. Michael Beach as Miles. Michael Beach took on the complex role of Miles. In 1997, at the age of 34, he played the talented but sensitive husband of the eldest sister. Terry Miles was a man torn between his career ambitions as a musician and his family responsibilities, eventually becoming one of the most controversial characters in the film due to his infidelity. In reality, Michael Beach's life had parallels to the emotional complexity of Miles. His 16-year marriage to his first wife, Tracy, ended in 2006. The dissolution of the marriage left behind 4 children and was the result of years of exhaustion caused by responsibility and emotional distance. The breakup plunged Beach into a personal crisis. Professionally, he faced a different kind of struggle. Feelings of helplessness and anxiety grew as Hollywood frequently typecast him as the unfaithful or troublesome husband, a reputation cemented by soul, food, and waiting to exhale. It made his on-screen persona sometimes seem like a bitter punishment for his talent. The stress of his personal life forced him to throw himself into work just to forget. From ER and Third Watch to Sons of Anarchy, he took on a variety of challenging roles. But the more he tried to prove himself, the more he felt misunderstood both professionally and personally. However, his second marriage to Elisha Wilson helped him regain some stability and peace. In 2025, Michael Beach is 62 years old and still acting regularly. He keeps in shape and remains relevant with projects like Saw X and Mayor of Kingstown. He strives for more mature roles that move beyond the stereotypes of his past. His net worth is around $5 million, which is not a vast amount for such a long career, but it is enough to live comfortably with his second family, having found the balance Miles never could. Jeffrey D. Sams as Kenny. Jeffrey D. Sams played the role of Kenny, the steadfast husband of Maxine. In 1997, at the age of 31, he portrayed a kind, responsible man who is often tormented by the family tensions between the sisters and the difficult choices he faces as a peacekeeper. Kenny became the poster child for a man trying to hold his family together in the midst of an emotional storm, adding depth to the film and creating a sharp contrast to the more troubled male characters. But when the cameras stopped rolling, Jeffrey Sams struggled in a very different way. His gentleness and calmness, which made him perfect for Kenny, sometimes caused Hollywood to ignore him in an era that favored rebels and rowdy characters. His early roles on series like Medicine Ball Sleepwalkers and Cupid were canceled after just 1 season or less, leaving him with deep professional wounds and a constant sense of failure. The inability to land regular long-running projects left him uncertain about the direction his life was heading. Despite this, Jeffrey continued working, playing occasional cameo or supporting roles on series like Law Order CSY, Veronica Mars, and many others. The years spent behind the scenes watching his colleagues achieve massive fame exhausted him, but they never defeated him. For Jeffrey, acting wasn't a pursuit of fame, but a means of survival. In 2025, Jeffrey D. Sams is 59 years old. He is living a quiet life, largely out of the spotlight with his wife Lisa Marie Boursier and their children. He continues to play small but recurring roles on television. He no longer aspires to stardom. He simply desires a quiet life and roles that allow him to maintain his professional pride. With an estimated net worth of around $700,000, he epitomizes the humble working-class actor who never had a real chance to shine as a superstar, but succeeded in sustaining a life. Nia Long as Bird Joseph. Nia Long brought a youthful light to the film as Bird Joseph. In 1997, at the age of 26, she played the gentle but determined youngest sister who brought warmth and hope to her family. Bird's character became the film's emotional axis, helping Nia Long gain recognition as a new icon of black cinema in the late 1990s. She represented the new generation full of dreams and navigating new love. However, unlike Bird's eventually happy portrayal, Nia's real life was fraught with emotional upheaval that proved difficult to cope with. She grew up in a family marked by turbulent conflicts and frequent moves, instilling a resilience in her from a young age. But her adult life brought a public heartbreak that shattered her privacy. After 13 years of dating, her relationship with NBA coach Ime Udoka ended abruptly in 2022. The breakup wasn't just private, it was a global spectacle. It was revealed that her fiancé was having an affair with a Boston Celtics employee. The scandal erupted worldwide, turning the usually reserved Nia Long into the victim of public betrayal. The breakup of her longest relationship left her exhausted. Worse still, Nia Long was left to raise 2 sons alone, becoming the family's sole breadwinner following the scandal. The pressures of single motherhood, the searing pain of betrayal, and the coldness of Hollywood brought her to the brink of abandoning the film industry altogether. But like Bird in Soul Food, she determinedly picked herself back up. She continued her career in films, like the Best Man franchise, Empire, Fatal Affair, and most recently, You People, 2023. Although life's upheavals repeatedly wounded her heart, they also strengthened it. By 2025, Nia Long is 54 years old. She is devoting herself to her sons and selecting less stressful film projects, choosing peace over the frantic pursuit of fame. She has become a strong voice for women who have been betrayed, sharing her story to empower others. Her net worth, estimated at approximately $15 million, is the result of 3 decades of hard work and the resilience she built by overcoming the deepest wounds of her life.